Welcome back to this week's episode of the Goonery. Got myself and Brandon here today, and feel like a broken record at this point with the last few weeks of this show, but this NFL offseason is as crazy of an NFL offseason that I think I can ever remember. And whether it's with quarterbacks or now with wide receivers from the past week, Devontae Adams to the Raiders, which we touched on last week, but now Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks. Brandon, the Dolphins offense just got a whole lot scarier for Tua to throw 5-yard out routes to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill all damn game. The two fastest wide receiver duo, the fastest wide receiver duo in the NFL. It's probably also going to average the least amount of yards per attempt, if we're being completely honest. And it's going to work.
It's crazy how things work, right? Because this was a team that was rumored to get Deshaun Watson for the longest of times, and then the owner debunked it. Just, one shot, that was it. And now Tua is your quarterback, but now you have every kind of weapon at your disposal. Not only do they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you got Chase Edmonds, who is an absolute stud receiving out of the backfield, and you have Cedric Wilson that you signed from the Cowboys. So if you want to talk about, there's absolutely no excuse for Tua. Now, I mean, this is it. This is it, because I'm not going to say the AFC is a wide open conference, because it's really not. It's extremely competitive. I feel like we talk about this every single week, but my goodness, it's that competitive. So this is it for Tua. They signed Teddy Bridgewater. So that whenever you sign Teddy Bridgewater, it seems like it's like, okay, if you don't perform, he's going to take your spot, most likely, especially with the money that he got too. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be extremely interesting for the AFC East, considering the Jets made some couple of moves. They had 2 draft picks as well. Patriots, they were pretty damn good last season. Let's see if they keep it up. They haven't really made any significant moves this offseason, which may set them back. And then you have Buffalo, who has Von Miller, and they signed Jamison Crowder early in the week. I mean, what division in the AFC is not stacked at this moment in time? So it's crazy that now it feels like it's a seesaw every week. Last week we talked about how the Raiders can compete in the AFC West. We talked about how the Broncos could be the 4th best team in the AFC West. While that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it's very, very much a possibility that they are the 4th best team in that division. But now you look at Kansas City and you look at Patrick Mahomes throughout his career. What has been the biggest thing for him? He had 2 security blankets, and now one of them is gone, and one of them is 33 years old. And now he has a new number 1 receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster. They brought in MVS for a visit today. Unless they can get a stud wide receiver, which and they are in perfect position to get, by the way, which by the way is going to screw with the Bears. By the way, I want to warn.
Oh yeah, I've already set myself up for disappointment with the Bears at the second round.
Absolutely. So now the Chiefs are in good position to get one of those top flight receivers in the first round, and they have the equity to trade up into the first round and get that. But boy, how do you replace that production?
So I have a few thoughts regarding this trade. One, you really wonder what Patrick Mahomes is thinking right now, and if he regrets signing that $500 million contract. Granted, I don't think anyone's ever going to regret signing a $500 million contract, regardless of what your situation looks like. But you have to wonder if Mahomes is asking himself, was it worth it to do it that soon? Because he was going to get paid that much money down the line regardless, because of how talented of quarterback and generational talent Patrick Mahomes is. But you have to wonder if he realizes how much he is fucked over the Chiefs long term, taking up as much cap space as he did. Because before Tyreek Hill was traded, I believe him and Mahomes, the number were taking up 40 or 45% of the Chiefs' total cap space, and that's not sustainable. You're never going to win games like that with a cap space locked up in 2 offensive players. Granted, it was one of the top wide receiver quarterback duos in the NFL. Let's not get that twisted. 2, did the Packers get fleeced? That was my first takeaway. The Packers ultimately got fleeced. Granted, I know Tyreek had a little bit more time on that contract than Devontae Adams did, obviously, just playing under the franchise tag. But the Chiefs just got 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill, who, for all intents and purposes, is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But I still, not even just because he's going to play with Tua. I think away from Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill is going to hurt more than Patrick Mahomes is going to hurt without Tyreek Hill.
Interesting.
And I just think that comes down to both very, very talented, but Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent at quarterback. And end of the day, you're probably going to see guys willing to take pay cuts to go and play with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs because they're going to be in a position to win as long as Patrick Mahomes is under center for the Chiefs. And I wouldn't put it past someone like Odell Beckham to potentially go to Kansas City on a cheaper deal, especially coming off a torn ACL. I think that could be a fit. And like you mentioned, they're just going to end up trading for someone like a Jameson Williams out of Alabama, trading up in the draft and taking him because they can. I mean, they can. And they're going to do whatever they can to make Mahomes happy. And I know that ultimately they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I know Mahomes wanted him, and that's looking like a flop. So you also have to wonder how much longer can you let Patrick Mahomes kind of play GM?
So first and foremost, you want to talk about a tale of two organizations. One bad that's been covered up by great quarterbacks in their lifetime, and two, a team that's just desperately trying to win and also knows what it takes to win. Packers get two picks for Devontae Adams, who in my opinion is the best receiver in football. That's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. But when you go to the Chiefs, we are about to find out, and I can't believe I'm even saying this because we both agree Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent. But now we're about to find out, is he as good as his options? It's crazy to think that. But I know there's like this running thing where you don't necessarily need a number one receiver to win a Super Bowl. But it sure as hell does help to have some top flight receivers to throw to, especially with a guy, he's established now, but I mean, granted, if we look back, to the early parts of his career, does he have the same success with Tyreek Hill or without Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce? I don't think he does. So I think now we are starting to learn a lesson here. We are starting to learn that quarterbacks cannot eat up most of the cap and they can, just do whatever the hell they want, unless you're, one of the premier cities and you get a whole bunch of freaking cap space. That's the only way. But other than that, teams got to learn a lesson now that you just can't pay whatever it is and expect to live to tell about it. So now you got two quarterbacks that are in need of a number one receiver. And let's be honest, this is the great unknown. We don't know if that production is going to be replaced. So I think that is the most interesting part of this whole thing. But also another thing that's interesting, I feel like wide receivers are being treated like running backs now. They're just going from team to team to team. And it's crazy to me because, not for nothing, if you want to go back to the history of wide receivers and running backs, wide receivers are way more durable, way more reliable than a running back. That's why you don't see running backs get drafted in the top 5 as much as you do. And the guy, I think one of the last guys that did is about to get traded. Mm-hmm. So think about that.
And it's an interesting point that you bring that up because I was going to actually lead into that. I feel like wide receivers the last 2-3 years or so have just been being treated as like hired guns. You're seeing guys, like it's almost like how Major League Baseball trade deadline's been working the last few off seasons with wide receivers, just guys nearing the end of their deals, getting traded for a team as they're reaching the mountaintop. I mean, you saw Rams go out and get Odell. You see now that Miami trying to make that push, going to get Tyreek Hill. The Raiders putting themselves over that hump with Devontae Adams this offseason. And, true. The Cardinals with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, that is the move, in my opinion, that has really changed everything with the NFL, was Bill O'Brien essentially saying, all right, fuck you, DeAndre Hopkins, get out of here. And Bill O'Brien's not even around to see how much he's actually impacted the league, which is insane to think. I mean, you also have to wonder too, a guy like Christian Kirk, how much of an impact has that had on the wide receiver market? I mean, this offseason.
Horribly.
He is making, what is it? Is it 74 million or up to 84, something along those lines? A guy like that, who for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, is an average wide receiver. I would call him average to slightly above average. Not bad. I would like to have him on the Bears. I would take him with open arms, but he's not someone you're paying that much money for. And it just, that fucks the wide receiver market moving forward. I'm interested to see how much someone like Marquez Valdez-Scantling gets, Alan Lazard, just these guys who have been marginal their entire careers and have their issues, and yet they're probably still going to get paid.
It just kind of reminds you like of the NBA time with Timothy Mozgov got big contracts, Luol Deng getting big contracts and stuff like that.
That whole Lakers team. I mean, like Mozgov, Luol Deng, love him to death, but good God.
It was ugly. It was an ugly time for my Lakers. But it's literally what is like. It takes a team like the damn Jacksonville Jaguars to screw up the whole market, and not for nothing, that affected the Bears a very, very big deal because what we have seen, and this is not just exclusive to the wide receiver position. The Bears are not going to overpay for anybody. No. They're not doing that. Like if you expect, if anyone for that matter, expecting them to spend big, you probably are a little ignorant to what the last regime was doing and how it screwed up the team massively. So it sucks, but you see teams like the Jaguars, they're doing stuff like that. And what has that gotten them? Absolutely nothing. And literally the Bears were trying that same formula for the past couple of years, and it got them at cap hell. And now look what's happening. If they don't learn their lesson, and if this doesn't pay off for Trevor Lawrence, that, oh boy, is this a disaster. But this is the Jaguars organization. I mean, come on.
I mean, yeah, while we're on the topic of the Jaguars, let's just get into it. More Urban Meyer news came out this past few days. It's been another story from The Athletic. Both of us very well documented on this show for having a strong dislike for Urban Meyer. But how, essentially, the story that came out this week, if you haven't seen it, was that he walked into the NFL and he didn't know who Aaron Donald was. He didn't know who Jamal Adams was. He didn't know who Deebo Samuel was. And I just look at this. Is he that ignorant? I mean, like, is he in that much of a bubble? I don't know how you walk in as one of the premier college football coaches. Let's be honest. He is. He's one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. How do you just not pay attention to the pro game at all? I mean, those are I'll say two of those three names. I mean, I don't know how Jamal Adams was able to kind of slide his way into that conversation, but not knowing Aaron Donald and Deebo Samuel as an NFL head coach is just inexcusable.
It's one of those just blatant like displays of privilege for Urban Meyer. For a guy, I don't give a damn how he did on a college level. You not knowing premier players in the NFL is completely inexcusable. Not know who Aaron Donald is, who, on all intents and purposes, is the best defensive player we've seen in the past probably 10, 15 years. How do you not know about him? Like that's one thing. And in the belittling of players, saying that if you didn't play for this team, you won't get a job that paid you $15 an hour.
That I completely forgot. I completely forgot about that. And I'm also like, I'm wondering, like, is he saying this all knowing he's going to be losing his job, you think? Because he could not have walked into that situation and been confident in his ability to be an NFL head coach. Maybe he was because he's that ignorant. I don't know. But I can't imagine, like, anyone in my life that I want around me saying shit like that, let alone my boss. I mean, I've never had a boss and for all intents and purposes treat me that way. I mean, I've had shitty bosses, don't get me wrong, but you don't have someone telling you that if you weren't here, you'd be working bottom of the barrel.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's that ignorant, and I don't think he was going to lose his job. I think he came in with the mindset that, yo, I'm untouchable. I came from the college level. I had teams sought me out for years now. Because the Jaguars are not the first team that have looked into him. He went in there saying, yo, I'm better than each and every single one of y'all. Yeah, I may have hired y'all, but y'all are a reflection of me, which, by the way, is complete hypocrisy on his part. But that's exactly what it is. This is who he is. He is the epitome of what is wrong with the NFL's hiring process. How in God's name does that slip through the cracks? How in God's name does he get away with all this stuff? You know something? I understand the ability of power, what power does to players. And what it does is it kind of makes them fearful of who is at the top. And I get it. I totally get it. But you can't fool me into thinking that there was nobody and absolutely nobody having these discussions about how he trained the players. That's what's throwing me for a loop. So how he lasted as long as he did was probably just the whole, like, you know, the standard of the NFL. You don't fire a coach X amount of games into a season, especially when he's new. But you cannot belittle players. You cannot belittle your coaching staff. You can't physically abuse players, which he did, which people forgot about, by the way. I mean, I'm telling you, if there is a sorry ass college team that's going to stick out their nose and hire him, they deserve everything they're going to get. Everything, because there's something that's going to follow him. It happens all the time, and I don't know who or when the lesson will be learned, but it happens every single time. If you want to sell your soul to win, go right ahead. But guess what? There's always going to be something behind it.
I give it 2 years before he's back at the college level. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart that he will be at a middling Power 5 school within 2 years. And I won't even be surprised. And guess what? That team is going to win. That team is going to win a lot of football games. And guess what? People are probably going to brush it to the side again until there's the next violation with Urban Meyer. And guess what? I bet he does pretty damn well in the NIL era.
Oh, 100%. And another thing, I know what I'm about to bring up was more blatant than this thing that was reported. But you tell me the difference between what John Gruden said and the things Urban Meyer was saying to his players. It's not that different. And no. John Gruden got fired. Urban Meyer didn't get fired because he was using racial undertones when it comes to his insults. He got fired because he lost football games. So I'm telling you, there's no way. I don't care what anyone says. There's no way they did not know that stuff like this was going on. I refuse to believe that.
No, I agree. And then this is a thought that just popped into my head too. Like Urban Meyer's just inability to learn NFL names that are prominent makes you wonder if that's why he signed Tim Tebow. Yes, Tebow is his guy at Florida, but the fact that he didn't know Aaron Donald, didn't know Deebo Samuel, Jamal Adams, like I mentioned. Honestly, I'm sure that has something to do with him bringing in Tim Tebow, because if he doesn't know those names, there's no way he's going to know people who are on the second, third, fourth level market for tight ends. So let's give Tim a shot.
Yeah, and look what happened with that. You already embarrassed yourself, and the regular season ain't even started yet.
Yep. Well, Jaguars, who knows what's going to go on with them. I hope Doug Peterson gets Trevor Lawrence right, because I want to see him be successful. I mean, Jaguar fans, they were fun to watch. Just from 10,000 feet, they were fun to watch. And I think it was, 2018 when they went to the AFC? 17 when they went to the AFC Championship. That was fun just watching them online. Just they finally had a good team, and I wish them the best. Hope they can turn around. But that moves us into our next bit of NFL talk. Quarterback position is still going absolutely insane. Matt Ryan traded for a third-round pick to Indianapolis. Baker Mayfield's seemingly out in Cleveland after the Browns announced they have acquired Deshaun Watson and signed him to the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history, $230 million guaranteed, which I don't know how you go from 22 sexual assault allegations to $230 million in less than a year, but it happened. It happened.
It just the NFL they amaze me, man. They truly amaze me. And this isn't a matter of whether he's guilty, whether he's innocent. It's a matter of the amount of accusations. Like I'm not. Listen, I don't give a damn what the ruling was. I don't care. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care. 22 allegations is 22 allegations. That's a ridiculous ass number. And I honestly don't even entertain the people who say, "Well, he was guilty, so I mean, what are we talking about here?" I don't get them. Who cares? The fact is this: the Browns got their guy. Congratulations to them, and they're probably going to be 10 times better than what they were with Baker Mayfield. And speaking of Baker Mayfield, is he now looking at being a backup? Because I mean, if we really assess the market right now, the Indianapolis Colts took a damn near 40-year-old Matt Ryan over him.
Yeah.
The Seahawks are literally looking at Drew Lock and say, you know what, you're probably a better bridge than what Baker Mayfield would be. And you have the Steelers who signed Mitchell Trubisky, and they are looking towards Baker Mayfield if he gets released. Think about that. Baker Mayfield getting released, a former #1 overall pick getting released. So you know what that tells me? For somebody who is so brash, so confident in himself, and what is willing to throw people under the bus, there is not one single trade suitor for him if you really look at it. Not a single one. And this is another example of writing checks your ass can't cash. He talked so much stuff, and look what the market is for him. There's going to be no choice but to release him.
So I'll say this about Baker. I don't necessarily think that Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, but I also don't think he's as bad as people tend to say he is. I think that this past year really clouded a lot of people's judgment on Baker because if you really look at it, his 2020, I will say it was solid. He was right around the middle of the league in terms of every major statistical category. This year, he played so hurt. The Browns were idiots for not shutting him down because if they were to shut him down, they probably would have been better off with Case Keenum at quarterback just because Baker had a bad shoulder. He couldn't throw the football. I think he had a concussion at one point. He may have had COVID. I don't remember, but I think there was 3 separate instances of where he was legitimately banged up and should not have been on a football field and still stayed out there. That's both the Browns and Baker's fault, and it's probably Baker being a hard ass, if we're being completely honest, him just saying, no, I'm good to go, yeah. I don't want to get sat down. I don't think they release him. I think that they would rather keep him as a backup than release him, but then again, that would just be a media circus. I could see Baker going to potentially, I still think that there's a shot that he goes out to Seattle. I do. I genuinely do. I think that there's a shot that he could go play in Houston and challenge. It's crazy that I'm even saying this, but challenge Davis Mills for a starting quarterback job. I still think there's a scenario where he can end up in Carolina. I think the Panthers or the Falcons are going to end up with Malik Willis. So I could also see him going to one of those 2 teams, whoever doesn't land Malik Willis. And it's just, you look at it, I don't want to say I feel bad for Baker Mayfield because I don't. I don't at all. No sympathy. But just what a wild situation, honestly. Because the Browns, for the last few years, they thought they had their guy. Browns fans thought they had their guy. He was finally another name. He was the last name on that quarterback list that sits in the window for however many years, 20-something quarterbacks or whatever it was. Baker was finally the last one. But guess what? Put another line through him. Baker is out in Cleveland. And that's just not something I thought I'd be saying right now.
Oh, absolutely. Because, in my opinion, he was definitely worthy of the #1 pick. Absolutely. He was electric in college. But it was just one of those things where he just got way, way ahead of himself. Really, I mean, he hasn't had, like you said, he hasn't had bad seasons, but for him being injured for as he was in 2021, and yeah, you said the Browns were stupid for not shutting him down, but this is I in my humble opinion, I believe this is more about him trying to be that hard ass. And that's what I looked to when Browns Brad said, "Yo, we need an adult in the room, and we don't need this guy that has so much of a chip on his shoulder that he's going to be selfish and cost the team wins, cost the team making the playoffs because they had a chance." But like you said, Keenum starts, they're probably more in the mix than they actually were. I mean, with Keenum and Stefanski, there's familiarity there. With the weapons that they had at the time, there was familiarity. So that could have worked. But Baker was being who he is, a brash, arrogant, stubborn, just guy. And he cost himself. He really cost himself the chance to be a franchise quarterback. And like you said, I don't feel bad for him. He did this to himself. But my goodness, it's a disaster for him right now. It's truly a disaster for him.
Yeah, I mean, I also just want to give a special shout out to Colts fans for having to talk themselves into a different quarterback for what is it now? Is this the
4 years.
the fourth quarterback in 4 years? And just what a fall off from Andrew Luck, man. You went from having a generational talent who just said, screw it, I'd rather go home and be an architect. I mean, I genuinely feel bad for Colts fans. I do. I do, because you go from Andrew Luck to was it Jacoby Brissett the next year?
Yes, it was.
Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz and now Matt Ryan. I don't think Matt Ryan is bad, but he's less over the hill than Phillip Rivers was when Phillip Rivers
definitely
in Indianapolis. So I think they are better off than they were without Carson Wentz. Let's be completely honest. And you have to imagine the Colts are the front runners to sign Julio Jones now too.
And I always I wonder, what is this reluctance with the Colts to not draft a quarterback? And granted, I get, like, they have been to the playoffs, so they'll probably see as drafting a quarterback as kind of a downgrade. I totally understand it. But at the same time, do the Colts legitimately have a championship window? I don't think they do. They're not the best in their own division. They will definitely not make the playoffs for how the conference is constructed right now. I don't see what the reluctance is. Matt Ryan, to me, and I really like Matt Ryan. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he did better than what people think he did in his last couple of seasons.
For sure.
He's not getting you over the hump. He's not going to be the difference between you getting into the playoffs, you making the Super Bowl. I can't see that.
No, he's not. And granted, I think they're just going to run Jonathan Taylor into the fucking ground. And rightfully, I mean, like, you feel bad for Jonathan Taylor, but goddamn, he almost won the MVP this year. So you better believe that you're going to be riding the coattails of your young, dominant. Honestly, he's the face of their franchise, Jonathan Taylor, at this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, and I don't think the Colts are going to draft a quarterback this year either. I just think it's too weak of a draft class. And you have to wonder if maybe they have a bit of hope in Sam Ehlinger just sitting on the bench. I mean, I know Sam, I'm not going to rule that out because, I mean, he has the intangibles. I mean, he was good at Texas. He wasn't great, but people kept hooting and hollering about him all last training camp until he got hurt. And then people came in, and this offseason, you're like, is there a legitimate chance Sam Ehlinger is their quarterback after they traded Wentz? And I think the craziest part about this whole quarterback situation, I know we just mentioned Baker Mayfield not having a place. What the hell is going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo? Not to pivot like this, because on the last episode, we both said we thought Jimmy was going to end up in Indy. it's do they hold on to him? And something I'm not ruling out either that people that I saw floated out today, a swap with Brady and Garoppolo. I saw that on Twitter floated out today.
Wow, that's interesting. but you know what? I do this whole carousel. I totally forgot about Jimmy G.
And that's exactly how
just
his entire career. That's exactly how it's been for Jimmy Garoppolo's entire career. Everyone just kind of forgets about him until he's in the NFC Championship game.
Exactly.
He just wins. But he's not the best quarterback, but the guy just knows how to fucking win.
Exactly. But the question the question is this. Is it Jimmy G that they really are like rolling with, or is this an indictment on Trey Lance?
I mean, that's a fair question. I mean, Lance obviously had his question marks, and call me stupid. I bet people in that building are starting to have a little bit more hesitation with Trey Lance after seeing how Carson Wentz has fallen off the last few years. Obviously, that's a bit of a stretch, I think, both of those guys just being from North Dakota State. But Carson Wentz, before he got hurt, he looked like he was on his way to being a perennial Pro Bowler, constantly in the MVP mix. I mean, the guy's got MVP votes in 2017. He was a special talent. And not to say Trey Lance isn't and won't be. I think he has all the physical intangibles necessary to be a very good NFL quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting cold feet. Then you also think about Jordan Love. Jordan Love is stuck in no man's land. Yeah. I honestly don't think there's ever been a time across the NFL where there's been this much uncertainty at the quarterback position heading into the end of March, beginning of April. And that includes like the draft too, because it's not a strong draft class at quarterback. So I'm assuming that's why so many teams are out there making moves.
It's exactly that, but it's also the perfect draft for teams that have aging quarterbacks that want to develop. So that I think that's what the mindset is. I think this is a year where you draft a guy, you sit him behind whomever, and you go from there. But if you are a team that is quarterback needy, this is the perfect draft because there's nobody, and I mean nobody, unless your name is Malik Willis, is going to reach. And that's a good thing because you can get a guy who got a first round grade in the second round. And I think you'll see a firestorm of quarterbacks that will go in the second round more than the first round. Because from the aspect of position players, I mean, it's loaded. Every offensive line, wide receiver, linebacker position, it's loaded. So yeah, if there's a quarterback needy team, this is a good draft to develop, but not really a class you will want to start right away.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Malik Willis. How high do you see him climbing? I mean, everything we've seen from him coming out of the combine a few weeks ago, his pro day, I think it was yesterday. The dude looks like he's ready. And I think he ends up in Atlanta. I think he does very well in Atlanta, given the circumstances. And I'm pulling for him because he was a ton of fucking fun to watch at Liberty. And not that I was watching a ton of Liberty games, but in the rare occasion where I would flip it on if they were on TV, I never regretted it watching Malik Willis. And I tend to think it's going to be very similar once he comes into the league. And people forget he was an Auburn recruit originally too. It's not that he was not heavily recruited. He was a heavily recruited guy and just didn't work out at Auburn.
Yep. And I think Atlanta is the perfect spot for him personally, especially if he's looking to start early. Marcus Mariota is not going to last season as a starter quarterback. Let's be honest. So Malik Willis he seems Atlanta bound, but it's either Atlanta or Seattle, and it's all depending on whether Seattle makes the move to get Baker Mayfield or saying, hey, kind of like Drew Lock or whatever. I don't expect him to say that, but it's very much a possibility. But that's what it's looking like right now. And outside of that, I mean, because I believe Atlanta's ahead of Seattle in the draft order.
Yeah, I believe Atlanta's the 4th pick.
Yeah, so if that's the case, Seattle might be in a little bit of trouble. They may have to reach on somebody, or they could trade back with somebody, get some more picks. But Malik Willis seems like
how Seattle works, man. I mean, they trade up all the goddamn time.
Yeah, that is true.
They regret it all the time. I mean, I'll never forget them trading up in the 1st round for Rashad Penny. I mean, he had a 3rd or 4th round grade, and Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, I know Pete Carroll's not calling all the shots, but just deciding, oh yeah, we're going to trade up and get Rashad Penny, and the guy doesn't even touch the field for them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean so let's see. I'm pulling up the draft order right now. I know it's Jacksonville 1, Detroit 2, Houston 3, Giants 5, Carolina 6. Okay, so I was way off. So I could see him going to Carolina because the Giants have the 5th and the 7th pick, and then Atlanta picks 8th, Seattle 9th.
Oh. And you know what? The Giants are going to be someone's best friend in that 1st round. Let me tell you, especially if it's Atlanta or Seattle, that's the one team you want to trade with. They got a lot of draft capital to give up, and they'll be okay trading back in the 1st round. So, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how things shake up, especially with how this whole offseason has just gone. I think the draft is going to be absolute mayhem. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those names like Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo moved on draft night, if we're being completely honest. So it's something to watch, that's for sure. But to pivot, we are in the heat of WrestleMania season. And both of us WWE guys, the build to WrestleMania in the past few weeks, it's been intensifying. I've been tuning in more than I have in a long time, I'll say that. And I really haven't been disappointed. I don't know about you. I'm loving what they're doing with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I think that story is being told perfectly. I think that the Edge and AJ Styles story is going perfectly. I think we're going to get a couple great tag team matches at Mania. The women's matches, I'm not looking forward to Charlotte and Ronda, but it's going to end up being good. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Becky and Bianca is going to be the better match in my opinion. But my favorite thing, and I didn't mention Kevin Owens and Stone Cold. That'll be a fun 10-minute segment, I'm sure. Yes. My favorite thing that WWE has been doing has been the build-up with Seth Rollins. And I know that Seth Rollins is your favorite on the roster. I like Seth Rollins. It's not my favorite, but you can't watch Seth Rollins and not enjoy it. He is one of the best in the world at what he does. And I just love the way they're telling this story and intertwining it. I mean, everyone knows what's coming, but yet people are still so bought into it. So I think that's a telltale sign of, one, how good Seth Rollins is at his job, and two, you're going to hate this, how much people are actually clamoring for Cody Rhodes to come back to the WWE.
You hit the nail on the head on something. They are on the edge of their seats just waiting for that one thing. And you know what? Every other argument that's against the storyline, it doesn't even matter.
Nope.
So I don't like these takes that you need to have Seth Rollins build some momentum by winning matches leading up to WrestleMania, whatever.
It feeds right.
Do you know how storytelling works? Literally, if, let's just say, on Monday, Seth Rollins lost clean, people can have an argument. He's on a losing streak. How is he supposed to build momentum for Mania, whatever? But even then, it doesn't fit the argument. No. It doesn't fit, because at the end of the day, what they're doing is him being absolutely desperate. How is that not enjoyable with the character that he has? He has a character that can make anything stick. So anybody that just has an issue with it, they're just being just this anti-WWE nonsense or what. That's what it boils down to. They have to be perfect at this point because they think AEW is the standard for having perfect booking. Not neither here nor there. But one thing that is very, very underrated is Kevin Owens was once a guy that was lost in the shuffle. He was about to leave. He was hinting at leaving for AEW, signed a contract extension. Everybody, these stupid ass wrestling fans, wondering, oh, bro, why'd you sign back with them? AEW, all your friends are there, dude. He signed back for a reason. He signed back for a moment like this. There is not one guy, not even a lot of people's favorites, including mine. CM Punk could even get Stone Cold out of retirement.
Nope.
And look, Kevin Owens, of all people, I'm not trying to say that in a disrespectful way, but Kevin Owens, a guy that was on the brink of leaving the company early last summer. And look, he's about to close WrestleMania. Thank the Lord, by the way. He's going to close WrestleMania with Stone Cold. That is, and the work he's done up to it, amazing. Dude, it's just the thing where people just don't really appreciate these things until they are gone.
And as the guy on this podcast whose favorite guy in the WWE roster is Kevin Owens, I'm so happy that he stayed because he's been a Triple H guy from the start. I mean, I don't know the last time. All right, no, I do. The two times I've popped the hardest watching WWE television in the last 5 or 6 years, I would say. One, Kofi Mania, when Kofi Kingston pinned Daniel Bryan for the WWE title at WrestleMania. And two, when Triple H pedigreed and betrayed Seth Rollins and told Kevin Owens to pin him for the Universal title on Raw. It was just, that was a genuine holy shit moment because that was Triple H's stamp of approval. And I mean, I saw someone tweet it out. WWE trusts Kevin Owens, man.
Yes.
And he is reliving the Attitude Era with the guys he's faced. Yes, he was buried by Goldberg, but he's had a match with Goldberg. He was in one of the best feuds of the last few years in WWE with Chris Jericho, in my opinion.
Yep. He
had a match now with Stone Cold. He had a great rivalry with Shane McMahon, which is crazy to say.
Roman Reigns.
I mean, his matches with Roman Reigns, man.
Oh, awesome.
I think it was an Extreme Rules match at the Rumble in
2021.
Oh, well, I was thinking the older one. I was 20. Oh. I think it was, there was, okay. I remember KO was when he was Universal Champ still. And it was Jericho was in the shark cage above the ring, I think.
Okay, yeah. That was I remember 17. Yeah.
And I remember KO taking the nasty bump off the top rope onto the chairs stacked up onto the table outside.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. And the dude's batshit crazy and willing to do whatever it takes. I think that, here's the take. When Cody Rhodes comes back to WWE, I think that he will be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns for the title. And I'm a Cody Rhodes fan. I know you're not. I've always been a Cody Rhodes fan since he debuted in a tag team with freaking Hardcore Holly in 2007 or 2008, whatever that was. I liked him then. I've liked him since. And I think that he'll be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. One, as just an ode to his talent, how far he's come. And two, Vince McMahon trying to show AEW stars that if you come over and make the jump over here, we're not going to bury you.
Yeah.
I think that there's always going to be a little bit of an asterisk on Cody Rhodes' first world title run in WWE, but it's a smart play in the long run by Vince McMahon because I wouldn't be surprised if Vince takes away MJF from AEW. I wouldn't be surprised if they get someone like Wardlow. I mean, there's a lot of young, really fucking talented guys on that roster. MJF is one of the two best heels in professional wrestling, him and Roman Reigns. And you're lying to yourself if you don't think Vince McMahon wants it, someone like that on his roster. He's like 24 years old or something like that. And he just had arguably the program of the year with CM Punk. And not to just go on an AEW tangent. Back to WWE. I know you're not looking forward to Cody coming back at all.
Nope.
And I will enjoy it a lot more if Brandy Rhodes is not involved with him on screen. And I don't think she will be. I genuinely don't. But it's going to be interesting to see how they bring him back into the fold. Are they going to let him kind of continue with that American Nightmare persona that he's kind of had from when he went into the Indies after getting released? Is he going to just go back to dashing Cody Rhodes? Is he like, what song is he going to use? Is he going to use the old Smoke and Mirrors, or is he going to use the song that he commissioned himself, which is actually a really fucking good entrance song?
It is, admittedly.
It's a good entrance song. But I think that I mentioned this to you, texted me last time. I think he's going to do a little bit of a revival with a Legacy 2.0 type of faction. I don't know what direction it's going to go. I could see it going two ways. I could see it being formed with the Usos and the Usos screwing over Roman Reigns to join Cody in a Legacy 2.0 to try and kind of get out of Roman's shadow in the bloodline. And I could see it potentially being the integration of someone like Braun Breaker and Dominic Mysterio. Just like Braun Breaker doesn't need that. Dominic Mysterio needs something. I don't know what it is, but he needs something. And that could be something to differentiate him from his dad, and not even differentiate, just something different. Just get him away from Ray, because it's not working, man. He's not his dad, and he never will be. But it's disappointing to watch, because he's someone who would benefit a lot from NXT. But if you're not going to send him down to NXT, at least give him something different to do than just being meaningless tag team matches with his dad.
I agree. And I had some time to think about, because we talked about this leading up to the show. And I think the perfect pairing for Cody Rhodes, if you're going to do a Legacy 2.0, the Diamond Mine would be perfect. Perfect. I'm a very big fan of Roderick Strong. He would stick anywhere. He's been a staple at NXT. And I don't think the Creed brothers are talked about enough as one of the best tag teams in the company. That team is as talented as they come.
Yeah,
I think that's the best fit. Granted, or we go a different route, and they can have Von Wagner or somebody else be on that team. And God forbid that happens, because I'm sure Von Wagner is a very good guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he is not my cup of tea. Yeah. I'm sure he's not a lot of people's cup of tea. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But Cody can do a lot in his second run. I'm gonna use the unbiased perspective, because at the end of the day, I may not like somebody, but I can also say, well, they have something here. They can do something with him. But it may be a matter of, yo, are you gonna bring him back as a babyface? And I would say, don't do that.
I don't think so.
Lead him into a babyface. Lead him into it, because the one thing that I'm sure probably bothered Cody Rhodes is the fact he got booed on AEW. He got booed. They didn't like him as a babyface. So learn from your mistakes, WWE. Make him a heel. He would be so despisable. The dude already has a punchable face. He already has one of the worst tattoos in U.S. history.
Oh, dude. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't have the people around him tell him that tattoo is just a horrible fucking idea.
Look who he's married to. I mean, come on. It makes all the sense in the world.
I mean, it's honestly, like, I'll say this about that tattoo. It's not a bad design. It's just, who gets a tattoo on their fucking neck that's that big?
It's an eyesore. Get it on your damn chest or something. It may still be an ugly tattoo, but at least have good placement. That's the only. I mean, at the least, the tattoo already stinks.
Yeah. And it's like, too, but like the look with Cody, I like that dream tattoo he has now. But no one talks about that anymore, because he has just such a bad fucking tattoo on his neck. And I just can't believe that Cody Rhodes is even coming back to WWE. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed yet, But it's just the fact that this is even happening. The guy who took a sledgehammer to the throne that at a pay-per-view at AEW last year, which was the corniest shit I've ever fucking seen.
Oh, it was brutal. And of course, the nerds ate it up.
Yeah. And the guy who said he would never go back to WWE. And I know it's professional wrestling, and it's always never say never. I mean, it's the reality of the business. Let's not get it twisted. But I'd go back for, I mean, they're reporting the deal's about $4 million a year, I heard. And I'd go back for fucking $4 million a year.
100%. And that's the thing. You have professional wrestlers who get paid a good deal, and they do what they do. They either a job, or they either the top guy, mid card, or whatever. People and the fans just simply don't understand that everything is a business. Do you really think somebody that is of the caliber of a Cody Rhodes or of the caliber of a lot of guys on the AEW roster, if they're not getting paid healthy enough as WWE would, which is very, very, very telling, by the way, do you really expect them to stay? Are you going to accuse them from running from the grind? Like that stuff is it's ridiculous. And you know what? They don't owe, like Cody Rhodes doesn't owe them anything. Cody Rhodes was literally there to start a new wrestling company, to start competition. He did that. He did what he needed to do, and now he's gone. Like, there's no room to be upset at him. There's no room for it. And you know what? This is another reason. AEW fans are just, they're terrible. They love and respect these indie darlings so much for putting in time when they had no money, barely any transportation to get around, barely any food to eat, and they love it so much that they don't want them to leave. They rather them, in most wrestler terms or fan terms, be a slave for the WWE or be a slave for AEW, and it gets legitimately upset with them. And it's just like, why do you feel you have so much access to these people's lives? You don't. You absolutely don't. And if they did, they'll be broke for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And what I also don't understand about this, AEW fans didn't like Cody Rhodes. So I don't know why they're, one, upset that he's leaving. And two, I don't think they understand that if there wasn't Cody Rhodes, AEW wouldn't be a fucking thing.
Exactly.
And that's crazy to say, but it's the truth. It's the truth 100%. And it's just crazy in my opinion, because at the time, Cody Rhodes was arguably the biggest name in AEW at the very start, because yes, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are incredibly fucking talented and good at what they do, but they weren't in WWE before. The WWE audience spans so much further. Oh, it's Dusty Rhodes' kid. Oh wow! Like that carries a lot of weight.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cody have a major role in NXT either.
I heard he does have a producer role. I'm not sure what the extent of it is, but I've heard he's going to have a producer role as well.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat for that storyline, and when Veer Mahan is coming, man. I mean, I think they announced April 4th now for Raw after Mania.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't believe they're still dragging that out.
I hope he's something special, because not for nothing, for all the hype they was giving him, all the vignettes every single week, he better be at least better than Omos. All the respect to him, but
yeah, I mean, it's very reminiscent of the Emelina promos.
Literally,
I don't even remember how many years ago that was, but I just remember seeing those every week, being like, "What the hell are we doing here, man?"
I enjoyed the promos from a visual standpoint.
Oh, let's not kid ourselves, yeah. And then the character lasted a week, and she came out as Emma after the first time she came out.
That was the biggest troll job. It's hilarious. Everybody lost their damn mind. I'm just laughing. It was funny.
Yeah, no, it was. So, what match on the card at WrestleMania are you anticipating the most?
Oh, good question. I must say, the Edge and Kevin, the Edge and AJ Styles match really catches my attention. We got Dickhead Edge back in 2022. I don't think we can ask for anything more.
It's awesome, dude.
And you know what? And people really are attached to his theme song for a good reason, but his new one is pretty damn good too. Okay, it fits, and I love that they kept
he kept an Alter Bridge song. It's awesome. He stayed with the same band, and I just love the spotlight. There's no more fireworks. There's no more pyro. Edge is always gonna get cheered with that song, and as a rated R superstar, granted, he's still, but people love to hate Edge a hell of a lot more than they love to cheer him. I can say from the bottom of my heart, when I was a kid, Edge was the first professional wrestler I watched and genuinely despised.
Oh yes, him and JBL, that 1A and 1B. Yes. Oh my Lord, I hated them.
Yep. And honestly, do you want to know who, funny enough, was also in that list for me? Was William Regal. I don't know why. I just fucking hated the dude.
I know why. It was a Raw GM. Raw GM, William Regal, the biggest dickhead on the planet. Yes, I totally understand.
And the King of the Ring, I think it was in 2008, he was King of the Ring. Yeah, it was just, God. And then Great Khali, just for the vice grip and making Rey Mysterio bleed out of his mouth. But
I'll never forgive him. He could save someone from drowning. I'll be like, yo, you still squished a man's head. Like, no, I don't forgive him.
God. But yeah, that match is, I mean, genuinely, it's 20-something years in the making. I'm sure those two probably, I mean, I wouldn't put it past like facing off in the Indies in the 90s at some point. I mean, because AJ Styles has been fucking going forever, just as long as Edge. But that's a match that 10 years ago, no one would have, that was not even possible 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was not physically possible 10 years ago.
And it just, I got to be honest with you. When Edge came back, won the Royal Rumble, I was very iffy about him being Roman Reigns, and on both occasions. But now that he's a heel, I want him to hold the championship again.
Oh, dude, same.
I genuinely want him to win a title. He just perfect.
He doesn't need it, but goddamn, would that not build up a one hell of a young baby face that roster?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, definitely. Listen. I wouldn't mind if he ran it back with Randy Orton with the roles being reversed. He can legitimately be in a program where anybody he pleases, it will hit. That's how good heel Edge is. And I want him to go straight to the damn moon. I don't give a damn what they got to do to get there. I want him to go straight to the moon with this character.
And there's another aspect of this that I'm loving that's been super underrated is I don't follow her, but I've been seeing her tweets is like Beth Phoenix keeping the kayfabe alive on Twitter. And that's just something very, very minor, but it goes a long way. Obviously, we all fucking know it's fake. It's like, we all know that. But just like very small details like that, you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. They're actually like trying their best instead of taking a fun-loving family selfie and posting that they're at the zoo together. Like, it goes a long way. And like the way Edge is acting right now obviously reminds me of the old Edge that I fucking despise, but it just brings you back to that era of WWE when Triple H invaded Randy Orton's house and threw him out the front window and they both got arrested. I mean, it's just like it brings you back to that era, and that era, the Ruthless Aggression era, it's underrated and people don't give it the respect that it deserves. But there was one more thing I want to touch on, Edge. I saw a debate on Twitter the other day that Christian is a more complete and better professional wrestler over his career than Edge. And I have never been more flabbergasted watching someone just bury themselves into a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. There's a reason Christian left the WWE and went to TNA, and Edge was on top for fucking however many years, winning world title after world title. And that's not to knock Christian. Christian's awesome. He was very good at what he did. Didn't touch Edge on the mic. Did not touch Edge with character work. And I don't think he touched him in the ring either. And there was multiple people in this thread on Christian's side. There's a reason Vince McMahon pushed Edge to the moon from that tag team. And I thought that was just common knowledge.
Was this on Twitter?
Yes, I'll try and find the thread and send it to you.
Find the thread so I can block the person. That's first and foremost. But I mean, I like Christian a lot. And I think his work from 2003 to 2004, some really good stuff that's very underrated. The creepy little bastard stuff, very, very cool stuff, very good stuff. You can't name me one era of Christian that was better than Edge. Not one. Not you tell me a character arc. Think about this for a second. Nobody can name a better character arc than Edge had. From a guy that was a tag team wizard, a guy who was in the mid card, trying to get into that upper mid card, into the main card, and then he screws over Matt Hardy and becomes the ultimate dickhead from there, and was consistent with being a dickhead for that entire time. You cannot name me one time in Edge's career, in his heel run from 2006 to 2010, where you're like, Edge is boring. Edge is so boring. You know what people were saying? I hate this son of a bitch. I hate him. And you know what? Considering that, you cannot tell me that Christian lives up to that. He has never had that type of reaction from a crowd. And that honestly, and like I said, I enjoy Christian's work. He's really good. But that's one of the most insanely dumb takes I've seen or heard anywhere. Bad job, whoever that is. And if I find you, I'm going to block you.
I'm going to be completely honest. It definitely was an AEW fan, and we'll leave it at that. So, yeah. With that being said, we'll be back next week. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show, and we'll see you next time.
See you.